There are 4 secrets that I use for the best core training, and in this tutorial we're going to find out what they are and why they're the best. And if you want to follow a training program that uses these 4 secrets and principles, then just click the link in the description and enroll in my How to Build Core Strength and Stability 12-week program. Secret number 1 is to train with a neutral spine. And as a quick caveat to that, because I know there are some people that don't like training with a neutral spine, is that there is a time and a place for moving the spine whilst we are training. But what we're going to do now is just quickly find out why we need to train with a neutral spine. Well, first of all, what is it? It's that natural inward curve of the spine. So why do we train with it? Well, number 1, it reduces risk of injury. Number 2, it gives us a greater margin for error when we do go into poor positions and when we do lose greater or better exercise technique. And 3, it enhances performance of the whole body. So, number 1, how does it reduce risk of injury? Well, when we look at the spine, it's known as a slightly movable joint or a cartilaginous joint. So even from there, it's trying to tell us, don't move the spine a great deal. But when we do move the spine, what happens is the load that goes onto the spine goes to specific areas. So we've got the vertebrae and the bones, we've got the facet joints between each vertebrae, we've got the discs, we've got muscles, we've got ligaments. So when we maintain it in the neutral posture, it gets spread through all of those tissues evenly. When we move the spine, it gets sent to specific parts of it. And if we keep doing that over a prolonged period of time, that load is gradually going to bring greater wear and tear to those areas, and then eventually injuries will start to manifest themselves. It may not go into a very serious injury to start with, but it might build towards that through smaller areas, through smaller injuries that we don't necessarily address that quickly. Number 2 is that it gives us greater margin for error. So when I interviewed Dr. McGill and I asked him about the importance of a neutral spine, this was one of the answers that he gave, is that when we train within the neutral spine, it allows us to go out of neutral spine with less effects on the spine because we're stronger in that position. So even if we're involved in sports or certain training that involves us coming out of the neutral spine, when we train with it, we become stronger when we go outside of it. And then the third thing is the enhancing of performance. How it does that is when we maintain the neutral spine, as I've mentioned, it spreads load across all the tissues. Well, what that also does is it prevents energy leaks. So when we, again, bend the spine, flex it forward or to the side or twist it, there are energy leaks that go out of that area. So when the muscles of the hips or the shoulders are trying to do their job and produce a lot of power, that gets dissipated out of those areas where the bend is occurring. Secret number 2 is abdominal bracing, or bracing the abdominal wall. Now, why is this important? Well, the main reason this one is important is it creates a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. So our core is made up of many different smaller muscles. And what we want the abdominal brace to do is to knit all those muscles together to create one unit. When we do that, we are able to express greater strength through the muscles of the hip and through the muscles of the shoulder, so we can train harder, lift heavier, so on and so forth. Now, how does it do that? Well, we've got the rectus abdominis that goes down the front, and we've got the fibres going straight up and down. We've then got the obliques that go and cross sort of diagonally across each other. So they're all moving, so all these fibres are moving in different directions. And again, I liken this to carbon fibre, where we've got all these fibres that are sort of crisscrossing each other, which then creates a very strong but very flexible material. That is essentially how the muscles of the abdominals work, or the abdominal wall works. We've also got the fascia that wraps around as well. Now, what that is able to do is when you bring all of that together, is it can create more strength to be able to deal with more load as one unit than as if we are just doing, say, sit-ups, where we're just trying to get one muscle strong, because that will create an imbalance between all of those muscles. And if we create an imbalance, then we're going to get energy leaks elsewhere, which is going to diminish performance. But what we want is a balanced core, training all of those muscles, or as many of those muscles as we can, in single exercises, which is then going to create greater strength and enhance the performance. Secret number 3 is building of endurance. Now, why do we want to build endurance? Well, this is the foundation that everything sits upon. And what is it? It's the ability to hold a posture for a prolonged period of time without fatigue. That is the foundation that everything needs to be built on. So when we talk about core strength and core stability, it needs that endurance underlying it, because if it's got that, we can get more out of the strength and the stability that sit on top of it. So what we need to be doing is choosing and selecting exercises that allow us to hold a posture and position for a greater amount of time. And then what this is going to do, this is going to train those two secrets that I talked about before, the neutral spine and the abdominal brace. It's going to help us train those and be able to manage and stay in those for a longer period of time, which again is going to reduce our risk of injury and enhance the performance that we can get out of the core. Secret number 4 is tuning the core. So this is where we start to talk about strength and stability a little bit more, because we've got the foundation of that neutral posture. We've tuned the abdominal brace or the abdominal wall, and then we've started building those three and putting them together with endurance. So we're able to hold that for a long period of time. What we then need to do is tune it. Now, what tuning means is, let's just say we've been training the plank, we've been training that endurance, and we've got up to, say, 2 minutes. So we know we can hold for a prolonged period of time without fatigue. What we then need to start doing is we need to tune the core so it can contract and squeeze in what can be described as pulses. So it goes contract, relax, contract. What this means is when we are performing exercise or when we are performing within a sport, that is how our core is working. If we go into kicking a football, for example, when we swing when we initiate the swing of the leg, there's a contraction. When the leg goes through a swing, it will start to relax. It won't relax 100%, but it will start to relax. When the foot connects with the ball, it will then contract again. The same if we are hitting a tennis ball or a baseball or a golf ball. When we initiate the swing, there is a contraction. As the club or the racket swings, it will start to relax. As it connects with the ball, it will contract again. So we need to tune that. Now, how we can go about doing that in a very simple format is going into a plank and lifting an arm from the floor. Now, the key here is to maintain proper posture of the hips, because if the hips are wobbling all over the place, then you're not tuning the core. You're just shifting or weight shifting the hips to compensate for the arm coming off. So when the arm comes from the floor, what we need to be able to do is maintain the centered hips, and then what that will do, that will squeeze the muscles of the torso to hold you in position. So that is the tuning of the core that we need to create. So the 4 secrets in a quick summary. Number 1, we need to train in a neutral spine, because number 1, it reduces risk of injury. Number 2, it gives us greater margin for error when we come out of neutral. And number 3, it optimizes the performance of the torso. Secret number 2 was abdominal bracing, because that spreads load and it creates a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts and gets the torso working as it is built to work. Number 3 is building the endurance. That is the foundation and the ability to hold a posture or position for a prolonged period of time without fatigue, which then allows us to get much more from secret number 4, which is tuning it. So when we go about everyday life, or when we go about doing certain exercises, or when we go about playing the sport that we play, our core is tuned to contract, relax, contract when it needs to do it. And if we don't do that, what will happen is other parts of the body will compensate, and then again that will then create its own problems because of the compensation. Many thanks for watching my 4 secrets for the best core training. Hopefully it's been helpful. Again, as I mentioned, if you want to enroll in the How to Build Core Strength and Stability program, I will coach you on a 12-week program through these 4 secrets and a number of workouts over the period of 12 weeks. So if you want to do that, click the link in the description, go through and enroll.